Hi, I'm Matt Stoller, author of Monopoly-focused Substack newsletter Big and an antitrust policy analyst. I have a great segment for you today on this big breakdown. It's about a young YouTube-based content creator and entrepreneur with millions of fans and his new snack food business line. And more broadly, today I'll be talking about why chocolate bars are kind of boring and what Monopoly has to do with it. Last month, a fierce new competitor, Mars and Hershey's, went on a popular YouTube channel and attacked the chocolate duopoly for bullying rivals and buying up shelf space. Here's what the guy said.
And like no one has been able to get in there. It's like Hershey's, Mars, Lindt, and Ferraro, and it's pretty crazy. Like, but even most of it is just Hershey's and Mars. You know, they do like 75% of chocolate revenue in America, and so it's like it's kind of like monopolistic almost. Like you can't, if you have a successful chocolate company, they'll just buy you or just like bully you so you don't get shelf space. And so these guys like just own all the chocolate space and they don't innovate. Like a Hershey's bar to me just tastes like, it tastes very processed and I don't really like it at all, to be honest. I mean, and so it's so fascinating to me, like why are there not new, innovative, cool, like, you know, snack products coming out more often? It's because these guys just have all the shelf space and they have no need to innovate. You're just gonna buy what's there and no one's really threatening them. So to me, it's fun to like put pressure on them and try to get as much shelf space as possible and, you know, try to figure out what they're doing, but better. It's like the only thing in my life outside of YouTube that I've like gotten hooked on and like gotten that same high I get working on YouTube.
That was James Stephen Donaldson, better known as Mr. Beast, the most popular YouTube influencer in America. Mr. Beast Empire, and that's increasingly what it is, rivals Amazon Prime in terms of reach. He has more than 160 million subscribers on his main YouTube channel and 270 million across all of them. His video recreation of the popular TV show Squid Game, for example, has 456 million views. Mr. Beast is a 25-year-old college dropout who's simply obsessed with business strategy. His goal isn't just to be famous, but to compete aggressively in every realm that he can to make goods and services that please the public. He's been obsessed with commerce since he was 13 and started to crack the YouTube algorithm. Now, one result of his obsession and talent is that his videos regularly exceed top-grossing movies and TV shows in terms of reach. He uses his fame strategically, asking random pedestrians whether they subscribe to his various social media channels, many do, and incorporating this feedback into his videos. Over the last few years, Mr. Beast has branched out into a whole bunch of other products, doing experiments such as opening hundreds of Mr. Beast burger restaurants using ghost kitchens 2 years ago. While this wasn't a massive success, they are still available in some areas, and they were a test case for his fans' interest in food products off of the YouTube channel. A year and a half ago, Mr. Beast created a line of snack foods called Feastables, headlined by organic chocolate bars with fun, lighthearted marketing. Now, as an aside, I know a lot of people hate marketing. Just realize that those of us who do hate marketing are unusual weirdos. This is actually the kind of thing that most people like.
Which is better, my chocolate bar or the one that costs 100 times more?
Definitely yours.
Oh, really?
Is second.
Mr. Beast's expansion into chocolate led him straight into the maw of dominant snack food companies, whose purchase of shelf space with giant retailers keep firms like his excluded from the market. The power of exclusive arrangements is something I've talked a lot about. And it's not a function of the market, it's a function of law. Remember earlier, Mr. Beast cited two problems with getting into chocolate as a small rival. Acquisitions by dominant firms, Hershey's and Mars will just buy you out, and then exclusion of rivals via the purchase of shelf space. They own all the shelf space. Now, let's talk about shelf space, which is really valuable. So in 2005, Procter & Gamble bought Gillette for $57 billion. It's a similar line of business. They sell in retail outlets, razor blades and things like that. It's not that different from chocolate. One analyst said, and here's a quote, that shelf space is diamond-encrusted gold. So it's exposure to the consumer, and everyone wants exposure to the consumer. And indeed, monopolizing shelf space doesn't just happen in razor blades and chocolate. It is actually pervasive across the economy. The Department of Justice Antitrust Division is suing Google, for example, for buying up what is the equivalent of shelf space in search, which is the default to browsers on your phone. The Federal Trade Commission got involved in a series of mergers in the razor blade space, which were also all about shelf space. that had to do with Harry's, meat monopolies, business software firms, soft drinks, pesticides, pharmaceuticals, and movie, TV streaming. They're all actually about power in distribution. For example, the Kroger-Albertsons supermarket merger is about shelf space. It's about consolidating shelf space. Now, controlling shelf space, in particular bribery to control shelf space, and that's what Mars and Hershey's are engaged in, although they wouldn't call it bribery exactly. That's the key to creating monopolies. And there's a lot of research on this now. We eat unhealthy food because of this shelf space monopolies. We are charged too much for medicine because of these shelf space monopolies. We get paid less than we should because of these kinds of shelf space driven monopolies. And we have less credible information about our world because of these shelf space monopolies. Indeed, it's not too extreme to say that one of the core social problems in America, fostering everything from obesity to the dominance of big tech, is control of shelf space, of what is put in front of us as a consumer and who controls that. So the collusive deal that Mr. Beast encountered between big suppliers and big retailers, well, it makes sense from the perspective of a big business. It's good for the dominant chocolate incumbents who get to box out rivals like Mr. Beast and a lot of other smaller entities. But it's also good for retail incumbents who get better prices from Hershey's and Mars than independent stores that compete with them. It's bad, however, for people like you and me, for everyone else. Now, here's the thing that's kind of astonishing about this situation and about Mr. Beast going on YouTube and saying exactly what he did. Agreements like this, the ones between Hershey, Mars, and retailers, are illegal. And they have been illegal since a law banning control of shelf space through these kickbacks called the Robinson-Patman Act was signed into law by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1936. Now, at that time, the law was meant to stop the same kind of business behavior then being used by a different company called the A&P Grocery Giant, which was the original Walmart. In my newsletter at thebignewsletter.com, I cite this passage, which highlights a section of the law that says middlemen can't pay or be paid to exclude rivals. The law is still on the books, and it would seem to indict all the games played by retailers. So why is Mr. Beast encountering exclusionary behavior? Well, enforcers stopped enforcing this law in the 1970s and 1980s as part of the reversal of the traditional American policy frame against monopolies. They also stopped enforcing anti-merger law, so that gets to the other thing that Mr. Beast was talking about. Now, why do they do this? Well, one key argument for not enforcing this law was that, the new technologies and then eventually the internet made fights over shelf space irrelevant, since you can sell things through mail order or through websites and get around retail bottlenecks. So, there's plenty of competition, or so said the argument. That clearly, though, isn't true. After all, it's impossible to find someone with more expertise in the internet and internet marketing than Mr. Beast. And he's complaining about the shelf space bottleneck. There's good news. Today, there's a whole series of small business groups, from the National Grocers Association to the National Association of Convenience Stores to the National Beer Wholesalers Association. And these actually aren't just small businesses. They're small, medium, and even some large businesses, just not as big as Walmart or Amazon. These guys are actually lobbying for the enforcement of the Robinson-Patman Act and other rules against exclusionary practices. So here's an ad by one of these trade associations of smaller and medium-sized stores playing to try to influence policymakers to bring back enforcement of this law.
This is the only place that you can buy fresh groceries for 20 to 30 miles.
Independent grocers are the backbone of countless communities, but big chains are using their market share to squeeze suppliers and box out competition. Americans face higher prices, less choice, and access to fresh food. Existing antitrust laws have been ignored for a generation. It's time for a change.
It's the reason all these laws exist. We just want our fair shot.
Tell the FTC, protect American families, revive the Robinson-Patman Act.
Another good sign is that the Federal Trade Commission, under 34-year-old Chair Lena Khan and several other commissioners, Alvaro Bedoya and Becca Kelly Slaughter, they're actually trying to resurrect the Robinson-Patman Act. Now, Khan is exquisitely aware of the problems that Mr. Beast cites. In fact, in an article for Time magazine that Khan wrote 10 years ago, when she was a young journalist, she described the candy oligopoly and how it uses control of, yes, shelf space to effectively make bringing any new candy into mainstream markets extremely difficult. Now, Mr. Beast will get into the market since his brand and distribution capacity is so powerful. But it's much harder than it should be for him. And if it's this hard for him, then imagine all the other innovators that are really good at making candy, but maybe not that great at making YouTube videos, that are finding it impossible. Or, don't consider it, and then enjoy the endless sea of boring Hershey bars. Thanks for watching this big breakdown on the Breaking Points channel. If you'd like to know more about big business and how our economy really works, you can sign up by going to the link in the description below and taking a look at my market power focused newsletter, Big. Thanks, and have a good one.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.